we as human beings, we are creators. That's what we are meant to do in this life and in our on our planet as we live, right? So we are constantly creating, whether it is creating a family, whether it's creating great jobs, whether it is creating pieces of art, pieces of music, whether it's writing, painting, pottery, gardening, whatever it is. And even if you think that you are not a creative person, please don't believe that, because that's not true. The moment you can put food on a plate, that's already creating something. The moment you can put some flowers in a vase, you're already creating something. It doesn't always necessarily have to be this big gesture. Now, I always talk about the breath as being a way of taking people out of the rut, taking people out of the stagnation, or of this frame of mind when you feel anxious or depressed or whatever it is. But I think that tapping into our creativity is a great way to really make the wheels turn in a different direction. Now, I know that sometimes creativity, and I know this for myself, can be a very, very messy process. It's not always a linear thing. It's not always something great. It's not always something that is going to yield the desired result or the desired outcome. But just being on this journey means that you get to spend some time with yourself doing something that you love. Now, I know that this requires a little bit of a shift of mind frame, because you might think, well, I cook dinner and that's my everyday job for the family. How can I find happiness or beauty in that? Well, that's when the little process of changing the mindset of how you perceive things, how you do things, come into place. Because think of this: if you can do the chore that you do and not consider it as a chore, but you do this as an act of creation, as an act of your creativity, your expression of something in this world, then everything changes. And trust me on this, try this out. Make sure the next time that you are truly in a state of mind where you feel the downward spiral come up, stop for a moment, take a couple of deep breaths, and then reflect, what can you create? And I know that Marie Forleo, who I really love, she always says, she has this mantra where she says that create before you consume. And I find that to be so helpful, because before you start putting things in your mind, try to see if there is something that you can create. It can be very simple. It can be just cleaning your kitchen, for example, right? That is an act of creation, because you are doing something with a kind of a reverence to it. And that is what I see creativity to be, that you bring a kind of an attitude to a job that elevates it from being something that's everyday to something extraordinary. And it can be very simple things. Now, creativity is a very interesting process, and I love it. I love it because, like I said, it's messy. It's never linear. It's never something that you know is going to yield a certain result. It won't. And it almost like it's got a life of its own. And the moment I practice it and I surrender myself to this process of creation, I kind of give over the control that I have over the outcome. And there is so much of peace and so much of joy in just being able to surrender to something that's not in your control. And I think that's a great place to be. And when I am creating something, when I am and this is something that I tend to do as a practice, right? I create almost every day, and I invite each and every one of you to actually do the same thing. And I know that sometimes it's going to be something that I won't like, and I know that sometimes it is going to be maybe a piece of art that I'm going to scrap off later on, and that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. The end goal is not the result. Being on the path is. Just cultivating and embracing the process. That is what it is all about. And I think that the more I do this, the more this is a routine, this is now a habit, And the more I realize how generous existence can be with just doling out moments of pure happiness. And even though the result is may or may not be something that I want. And unless and until you surrender yourself to the path, unless and until you decide to make this your practice as well, it is kind of hard to explain. So my invitation to you would be to choose something that sparks some kind of a joy within you, and to practice this diligently, ignoring the outcome, just practicing it diligently, maybe once a week, maybe every single day, and see what happens. See the transformation that's going to happen, because there will be some transformation. For one, I do my writing practice. This is a process that I do along with, I think right now we are 100,000 people in this group by Elizabeth Gilbert, and I just love that. I do that. I of course do flower bouquets, because that is something where I know that it's taking something that's already very beautiful. Flowers are already inherently very beautiful, but adding my own layer to the story that's going to unfold in a vase. And of course, one of the favorite practices I have is the practice of yoga, which is something that I also do every single day. And now this may not seem like something that's a very creative art, but it actually is, because even though the asanas may be the same, but the way you approach it, the way you move from one to the other is constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. And there is so much of joy in just being the observer to see how I am moving on the mat. And I think this is something that just asking the question how has made a huge difference, has made a difference in how I move through life. So if you are really interested in pursuing this further, there is a book by Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way, where she does talk about making creativity a daily practice. And there are also workbooks. It's a very famous book, right? And many of you may have already heard about this. But that's something that I would highly encourage that you look into. It's an older book. I'm not sure when it was written, but quite a few years ago. And I know that a lot of artists practice this, because it really gets you into this habit of questioning, habit of being an observer, habit of creating. And the more you create, the more you will realize how certain things that happen to you life tend to lose the sting a little bit. And it doesn't mean to say that you're covering it up. It doesn't mean to say that you're ignoring it. It's just that they lose their importance, because your attention is on beauty, your attention is on creation, your attention is then or has shifted to making something that's beautiful, right? It's the process, it's the path, it's the journey, it's really just being on this trajectory of finding out a little bit more, of discovering a little bit more, of being curious, of being inquisitive, just asking these questions, being the observer, adding your little bit to make the story even more interesting. And I know that a lot of people say that you need to look for beauty and then you're going to find it. I think you don't need to look for beauty. It is there everywhere. All that you need to do is just become aware of it. So it's not something that you need to hunt for. It's just something you need to become aware of. So yeah, that is what I thought that I would like to share with you today about creativity, because I find myself in this state right now where I am thinking about this quite a lot in a more conscious way, in addition to the practices that I have. And also I got a little bit inspired by Florette's Farm, so where Erin does talk about making a weekly bouquet a practice. If you're interested in that, that is also something that you should check out, because I think that's a beautiful way of bringing a community together of people who are committed to creating something every single week. I just thought that I would bring all of these things together to inspire you as well to go out and to make this a habit, make creating something a practice, and I'm quite sure you're not going to regret it. Sending you lots of love. Bye bye. Oh, and before I forget, do let me know how this resonates. I love to hear from you, so leave a comment, and if you haven't subscribed, then please press that subscribe button so you can get more of my content. Bye bye.